Hello and welcome to the Connection Compass podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Louise Evans. In this inspiring podcast episode, I'm joined by energy healer, soul coach, and business mentor, Frances Day. Frances shares her remarkable journey from the corporate world of marketing to helping women in business break through subconscious barriers and reconnect with their purpose. We explore intuition, resilience, leadership, healing ancestral patterns, and how life's greatest challenges can become powerful catalysts for growth. This is a conversation about finding your unique path, embracing your feminine power, and discovering that true transformation always starts from within. Hello, Frances, and welcome to the Connection Compass podcast. I'm excited for you to be here. For our listeners, please could you share a little bit about yourself?
Yes, of course. Thank you for inviting me. I'm looking forward to this today. So, my name's Frances Day. I'm an energy healer and a coach. And I think as my skills are developing, let's say, you sort of find your flow, don't you, where it is that you really make an impact. And as they're developing, I know that I'm doing a lot more transformational work in the ancestral healing space, so generational lineage, and specifically for women in business. So that's my niche.
And you're a regional background, and it still plays a part in the work that you do. You were in marketing. So, how did you first get into your marketing?
That's a good question. I went to South Africa and I had a terrible divorce from my husband and it's where I grew up and it was my happy place. So I went to go and spend a bit of time with my really close friend from school just to rest and recuperate. And what I realised when I got back there at the age of 30 was I'd got no qualifications whatsoever. And it was just at that time, it's a long time ago, it was just at that time when Nelson Mandela had come into power. So it was almost like reverse apartheid. And what that meant was that if you didn't have brown coloured skin, they were sort of favouring Black people for work. So I really struggled to find work. So when I came back, it was like the kick up the bum that I needed to get some qualifications. And I've always loved people, how people think, the psychology of that. So I decided I would do a marketing and it just went on and on and on. And I did it the hard way. I worked full time and I did it in the evenings and it took about 6 years to get to chartered status.
Didn't realize that. That's incredible. So, you still use those skills, don't
Mm.
you? How has that developed over the years?
It's funny because to this morning, my task this morning has been creating stories for Instagram. And it's taken me forever because I'm hopeless at it because I've just not done it for such a long time.
It is a skill to get used to, isn't it?
Oh my goodness. So marketing's one of those fundamental things that you need for any business. And the way that it dovetails beautifully into the work that I do now is that when I'm working with clients, one of the first sessions that we do together is what we call a soul psychology session. And it's a 2-hour deep dive into, we set an intention like about prosperity. It's usually about earning money because that's, as a business owner, that's what we want. But what unfolds in like the 12-step process is something beautiful. We weave the story together about who she is as a woman and what's keeping her stuck. And in the process of doing that, I'm using my marketing skills, my clairsentient skills, because I'm connecting to Mary Magdalene energy mostly, because she's here to help women step into their power. And she's like my number one guide. So clairsentient, for those that don't know, is a feeling. So most people know clairvoyant, don't they? They see things. And we call it, in the trade, we call it all the clairs. Clairvoyant, clairsentient, clairvoyant, clairaudient. So I'm clairsentient mostly. And I get a a feeling in my body, and that takes us where we need to go on this beautiful path, on this 2-hour journey. But using that logical marketing expertise, I got a sense of the right questions to ask, but
Yeah.
combining it with the feels,
Mhm.
that gives it that beautiful extra layer. Yeah.
So, at what point in your career journey did the energy work and the clairsentience come into play? Has that always been with you, or is it something that's developed over time?
There's a short and a long answer to that.
Yeah, just go for it. Just tell us.
About 8 or 9 years ago, it was my first experience of someone who had got those beautiful spiritual skills. And I was she was on the other side of Leeds. I was here in Halifax. And she said, "Did you know, have you got a Harry Potter scar?" And I said, "I have." I said, "I've got a little scar right in the middle of my forehead. And when I was 2, I fell down some steps." And she said, "Do you want me to open it up for you?" And I went, because of my childhood, what had happened is I'd closed all my skills, my spiritual skills down. I guess in a way of like protecting myself, really. And I went, yes, absolute divine timing. I was really ready to do this work. And I swear I was on the floor, like writhing about, and she was on the other side of a Zoom screen, on the other side of Leeds, doing this amazing work. And I could feel my third eye going woo, 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 like this. It was amazing. I was absolutely exhausted afterwards, but that was the first part of reopening that Claire skill. But it's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. And I've done loads of courses and I've got some amazing mentors and lots of friends who are just as woo woo as I am. So we have very interesting conversations, let's put it.
Can I ask you, obviously, if it feels comfortable to go there, when you were younger and you shut those skills down to protect yourself, was that to protect yourself from the energy, or was it about perceptions of people? They're very sacred, these skills, aren't they? And you can't talk about them to everybody. So was it that protection, or was it not feeling to deal with the energy?
Yeah, it wasn't one or the other. So yeah, it's a combination of the two really. Before the age of 2, we develop that empath ability. And it's a way of being able to communicate with our parents. Now, I've always been told right from being very little that I was super, super sensitive. And it's not until I've become an adult that I've realised that that's one of my superpowers. It's learning how to use it in the right way, isn't it? In answer to your question, I think what it was doing was protecting me. Not necessarily, not because my childhood was terrible. It wasn't. It was probably very normal compared to lots of other people my age. My mum and dad were very young and they were still children themselves, really. So it was a way of keeping me safe
Mhm.
and giving me what I needed at the time. Because if I'd left my third eye open and being able to communicate with spirit at that age, I don't think I had the tools to be able to utilize that in the right way.
Yeah, there's a very safe way, isn't there, that we can use these tools, and often the safe way is when we're ready,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
that we have that maturity to ground and protect and to understand what we're dealing with.
exactly.
So when you had your third eye open, what happened? What transformed for you?
It wasn't like a boom, it all suddenly opened up into this beautiful new world. It was a very step by step path. So, this same lady who was called Joy and another lady called Julie, we created something. We were sort of piloting it really just to see if it would work. Now, having all these business skills and marketing skills can sometimes be a bit of a hindrance. Because people go, "Oh, you're good at marketing. This has happened this week." And because it's one of those skills that everybody needs for their business, you couldn't just have a look at what ends up happening is that I end up doing the admin support, and it's really not what I'm here to do. Yeah. So it's really interesting the way that these things unfold. It's as important to learn what you're not here to do as it is to what you are. And you only do that when you do it. You can sit and manifest all day long, can't you? Actually taking it out into the world, a bit like you and your beautiful podcast. Actually learn what it's here for and where the demand is and what the USP is, do you?
It's really interesting that you should say that. I was having a conversation just not so long ago about yoga, and I was explaining how I've been qualified since 2017. I've had classes, they start off very energetic and then they just filter out, people just disappear. It's almost like sand just like slips through my fingers.
Mhm.
And I got to a point where I was literally holding on for dear life, and when I let go, I realized that I wasn't meant to teach it in that particular way, that it does have a purpose in my life, but just not in that way, in the way that I was doing it. But when you go through these steps, that can feel a little bit confusing, because often in this work, you're trailblazing a path that's never been walked before, haven't you?
That's
So how have you found trailblazing on your journey?
exhausting. I think it's part of who I am, is that I'm one of those right at the front that always push the boundaries, pilot things and test things for others to follow. So it can be really, really hard work. But that's the reason that I run my own business. I couldn't, I actually think I'm unemployable now. Well, that's what happened with Birdboard. I was running my marketing business. I then decided being single and heading your own business can be a really lonely place. And I decided to pull together a dozen women that I really respected in business, who all had a different industry specialism, and invited them to come and let's just help each other with our personal and business challenges, because they're all connected, aren't they? And it was beautiful. I absolutely loved it. And one of the ladies who now runs a really successful law firm, Marie Walsh, in the middle of Leeds, just happened to throw one of those throwaway comments away right at the end of one of the meetings. And she said, "Do you know what, Francis? You've got this really good now. Have you thought about making it bigger than it is?" And again, it was perfect timing, because it was just before Christmas, which meant that I'd got a bit of headspace to really think it through. And I thought, the marketing business is exhausting. I describe it as a bit like feeding a hungry chick, with staff and officers, and you come in and you're collecting all the clients and feeding them into the hub, and then you're collecting more clients. Honestly, yeah, I was absolutely frazzled with it. But with Birdboard, there was like this beautiful diamond in the rough that just needed a few facets polishing. And I could see how it was scalable. So taking that formula that we'd tweaked in that pilot phase and then taking it to other boards in other regions. So over the next 5 years, I grew it to 150 members across 15 boards, sort of along the M62 corridor, really. It's beautiful. I loved it.
And so can you tell us because you have been on a journey with Birdboard, haven't you? Yeah.
Yeah, quite a journey. What happened was, and it's just what we've been talking about, really.
Mm.
You can imagine running a business of that size with women in business who are all super smart and all have an opinion about how things should be run. And it was little old me. And I spent the most of my life on the M62, driving from one board to another board. And we were just about to do one of the big lunches where they all come together in one room and meet one another. And I used to spend a long time strategically planning the seating plan so that the women were getting to meet the right women. And that particular year, at its absolute peak. As I said, it was 150 members, and I booked the Queen's Hotel for 300 members. 300 guests. And because their lunch fee was included in their membership, which I wasn't charging enough for, the way that the lunch was paid for was through the visitors attending. And 2 weeks before the event, I went in to see the lady who organised the events inside the hotel to ask her if she'd reduce the numbers because I hadn't got the same amount of bookings that I wanted. And I came out of the hotel and I was absolutely stressed. Honestly, I can't tell you, because I didn't have the money to pay for it. It was going to cost me about £5,000 in total, which I just didn't have. And I remember very vividly sitting on a dwarf wall outside the hotel and opening up my phone and putting a live video in the Facebook group for the women saying, come on, invite your friends, invite your guests. And when I looked back at that video 2 or 3 days later, there was only 3 or 4 women actually had watched the video. So when you layer, and I'm sure lots of women can identify with this, there's like a tipping point where you're just spinning so many plates all at the same time. Something's got to give. And it was that inner child, I realise now. So when you react, and they call it getting triggered, don't they? When you get triggered by something and it's not a normal reaction, and it sort of goes a bit further than it would do normally, you get super angry or you burst into tears, or, because emotions are energy in motion. So they tell you it's about listening to your body and understanding really what's going on. I was angry and upset because what I realised was it was my inner child going, nobody's listening to me. And it was distorted. If I'd done all the healing that I have done now, I wouldn't realise that it was a distorted energy. And if I'd had my time again, I would have just got an interest-free credit card and paid for it and then worked out the payment afterwards. Because what I know now is that running your own business, your reputation is everything. And within a couple of weeks, it just fell like dominoes, and ended up going into insolvency, and I felt like I lost my baby. It was heart-wrenching. Heart-wrenching. Yeah.
So from that moment, did you then take some time to rethink things? How did you recover from that? Because it's a very pivotal moment, isn't it?
It was part of my identity. I was chief bird of Bird Board. That was who I was,
Yeah.
So, I mean, thank goodness I had an amazing accountant, and she'd called in this insolvency practitioner and they'd said, we'll handle it. And he was amazing. But from October through till December, I don't think I got dressed for weeks. I was just on my knees broken. But then there was this tiny little glimmer of light. Christmas Day, I was on my own. And I'd had an email come through in my inbox from a lady in Hawaii, of all places. And she was a creative coach, and she encouraged people to write and draw. Very, very talented. And I thought, you know what, I can do that. So I got myself my easel and I started drawing and painting. And one of her guests was a lady called Lou Reed, who I don't think she does it anymore because I've been looking for her online, I can't find her. She ran the Energy Medicine Institute. And she just said, it's like there's a little pattern here. She said something right at the end of the presentation. She said, if finances are an issue and you feel called to get in touch and find out more, do it. And I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together, so I thought, I'm going to do it. So I did. And she very kindly gifted me the first 3 months of the soul psychology program. That's a 2-year program, because she said, if it's meant to be, then the money will come. And it did. Slowly but surely. And it was a very, very comprehensive course. It's a degree level, I would say. There was so much to learn. But to be a good healer, you need to have healed all your own stuff. So it was quite a journey. And it was, of course, I wouldn't have done that if I was still running Bird Board. And it was definitely part of that journey of having to go beneath the surface.
Yeah.
I'm smiling because it's the title of my book, Diving Deep to Climb High. So really diving deep beneath the surface to clear away all that stuff, all that wounded child stuff that makes me the person that I am today.
Before we come to the book, because obviously
Yes.
we're going to talk about that today,
Yeah.
I do want to ask you one more question.
Mm.
So, when you go through what happened with Burboard, and you said it devastating, it's like your baby. Was there a point where that experience changed for you? So, did something happen that softened the experience a little bit? Like, what was that?
Again, it wasn't one key moment. There was it was slowly, it took me a long time to recover from that. My confidence was on the floor because I didn't want to go out networking. I intuitively knew I didn't want to go to work. I didn't want a job. So it was tricky financially, signed up for credits from the universe and all that sort of thing, like we do in times of hardship. Whilst I was running Bird Board, I was one of the boards was over in Manchester. So we're spending a bit of time going over to Manchester to run that board once a month. And in the process of that, I met a beautiful lady called Susie Orr. I call her Susie Awesome. And she runs something called Unique Ladies. And it was another one of those throwaway comments. I think I must just have like spidey senses and pick up these because they just land at the right time, don't they? And I'm very into language, so I'm very tuned into the messages that people tell us beneath the surface as well.
Yeah.
So what I did was I was going across the Pennines to Lancashire to Unique Ladies because I knew that women on that side of the Pennines didn't have a preconception of me and my reputation with the Bird Board stuff. And it was a way of getting out there and just starting to build up my confidence again. And she's amazing, is Susie. She's been through a big cancer scare and everything. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman. And she just said, if you ever thought about running Unique Ladies in Yorkshire, I'd love to have a conversation with you about that. I'm like, oh. So again, I thought about it for a little while and I thought, you know what? I really like that idea because I've run Bird Board. I know how to get women together. It will help me with my confidence. A bit like we were talking about right at the beginning, I push things forward. I'm not a follower, I'm a leader. And I don't say that from an arrogant point of view. I just see it from the patterns and from the things that I've done in the past. So I set up, together with the support from Susie, I set up Unique Ladies Yorkshire. And there was a moment about 12 months into that. And I remember having a team leader meeting with all the women who ran their own Unique Ladies franchises. And I said, I'm back. My confidence is back. I feel amazing. I feel the best I felt for ages. So it was like it just landed in because it was all those conversations and the support and learning my craft again. So blending the energy work in with the coaching, in with the marketing, and coming up with that real holistic thing because we're not just one woman who has one set of skills, are we?
No, and I think this is particularly important, this holistic approach in the world right now. And it was about what you were saying earlier, that initial time you had your coaching, you had your skills, you had your marketing skills, but then bringing in that that energy work as well, just really opened things up and it expanded. And I see that's where we need to be as people on earth at this moment in time, that there's a real call for this blending of this what is logical, but then there's a real call to bring in the energy work as well, because it expands, it softens, it's it's that feminine energy, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, there's so much in the news at the moment about that, isn't there? So there's the something I developed a little while ago. I describe it as like most women, most human beings, whether you're women or not, find theirself by, it's like waves crashing on a shore. And you'll take it out to the beach, you'll get a sense check of whether it's working or not, bring it back, tweak it, change it, and then take it back out again. And slowly over time, you'll get to really define what it is that makes you uniquely you. And I call it your gift and your medicine. So your gift is what makes you uniquely you, and your medicine is how you share it with the world. And it doesn't come like that, does it?
Wow.
It's trying things and really seeing what lands with people and what doesn't. This is how Feminine Raw was developed. It started out while I was still developing these and getting my confidence back. And I mean, when I think about some of the things that I tried writing from day one, they're a bit cringy.
But you've got to start somewhere, haven't you?
So,
This isn't a logical process, is it? It's
yes,
thought, feeling, it's taking those ideas, using those clairsentient skills and having the trust with them and taking them out there. You've got to try it, haven't you? And have
yes.
you found over the years that even that early stuff, it does come into the stuff that you're doing now, but in a different
Absolutely.
way?
Even if it's what doesn't work. So that, because as I said, that's as important as the stuff that does. What I found interesting is that it's harder to sell something that's really low priced
Mm.
than it is to sell something that's premium priced, because there's so many people that are in the market at that lower price bracket. And if you're not really honing in on that gift and that medicine, so what makes you unique? Because we can have 100 different marketing people, but they're all different, aren't they? They're all have their own specialism. It can either be about a market that they serve, or, well, it's three things. This is my old marketing thing. It's market, media, or message. So it's who's the market, what are you talking about, and how are you promoting it, and the media. So are you a specialist in Instagram or, whatever?
And so I want to come to your book. So this year you have wrote a book, Diving Deep and Climbing High. And it is a very personal story to you. Can you tell us, the listeners, a little bit about it and what inspired you to write it? Why did you want to put it out there?
Yeah, thank you for that lovely question. I've always been into words. I've even from being little, I was a reader. So it's and I know now that in a past life I was a scribe. I write everything down.
I love that.
I've got hundreds and hundreds of journals.
You know
God,
where you were a scribe? That was
no, I don't. But
just that you were
yeah,
a scribe, yeah.
but I was one. Just for the benefit of the listeners, when you have some innate quality like that, it's usually because it was a really strong quality in a past life. So reading and writing are a big passion of mine. And I was told by a shaman that I had to write this book because there were thousands of women standing behind me waiting for me to write it. And I'm like, gosh, no pressure then. So it was my daughter's wedding. She was getting married on Eos. I was on Mykonos, and I'd gone for 2 weeks, and me and my sister were travelling by ferry for like the long weekend and making a holiday of it. And I was a bit bored, and I decided to start writing the book on my iPad, sat on a sun lounger, and I just never stopped. So I'll just do one chapter, and that's how it started. But what happened was, and this is a beautiful example of how when you're in flow and it's connected to your purpose, the doors just open and keep on opening. There's no push or hard work with any of this. There are so many examples of how this has happened for me. It's beautiful. So So I started writing the book. I was on the plane coming home writing it, and the words were just flowing. And then that was when I connected with Mary Magdalene energy. And it was like she was using me as a conduit because I was doing it. Somebody once gave me a bit of advice, which was when you're writing an autobiography, just write it. It's very different to writing something that's nonfiction
Yeah.
because it's about your life and you're thinking about the people that you're talking about because, of course, they're real people with feeling. And what she said was just write it and just get it all out because you can edit it afterwards and take the bits out that you feel might be a little uncomfortable for people to read. So I did that. It was so cathartic. It was
Yeah.
probably about twice as big as it is in its finished form. But then there was two things that happened that were really magical. And one of them was, and this is probably the first instance of me feeling that real message from spirit.
Mm.
So I was listening to a podcast and there was a lady on the podcast and it was about writing books. And she was interviewing a lady who was a cover illustrator for books. And when I get these sensations, it's a bit like, when the hairs on your arms stand up?
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. And depending where I get it on my body, I have learned to decipher what that means. But this was like straight down my spine. I'm like, whoa, what is that? So I contacted this lady and she was in America. And the way that my body reacted, it was like, I don't actually care how much money it is, but I just know that you need to do this for me.
Yeah.
So it was probably the easiest sale she's ever had. And she was brilliant because not only did she do the illustrations, she really held my hand and guided me through. This is before ChatGPT, through that whole uploading it onto Amazon and the pagination and the da 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 da.
Wow.
So she's definitely earned her crust helping me with that book launch. But that's what I mean. And also the second thing was that Mary Magdalene told me that I needed to put some tasks in the book, some reflection tasks for the women that were going to read it, because it wasn't just about me, it was about them and helping them to get those shifts. One of the big chapters in the book is about online dating and how every man that showed up was exactly the same, just in a different outfit, with low self-esteem, low self-worth. And what I realised in the process of writing the book was that it was all about self-worth, and it's always an inside job. There's that throwaway statement, isn't there, about you've got to love yourself first,
Yeah.
but it's so much more than that.
I think you've got to not only love yourself, but hold space for yourself as well, haven't you? There's a big package there, isn't there, about yourself and being being ready. In the book, you do go back to online dating, don't you, quite a few times. What really stuck out for me was what made you keep going back after your experiences. Was it wanting to find love, wanting to find companionship?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking about that because it is a really, really great question. When you get conditioned from your peers and your family about, oh, you've just not found the right man yet. It's almost like there was something in our family around you're not whole unless you're part of a partnership.
Okay. Mm.
So that's
Wow.
conditioning, isn't it?
Yes.
So I felt like until I'd done the healing, and I'm going to say that I have been single now for nearly 3 years, until I'd done the healing, it was almost like a constant yearning for someone to make me whole.
Okay. Yeah.
And I didn't realize that actually I could be whole all by myself. It's like I was looking for like a missing piece of the jigsaw.
Yeah.
Because of those being ultra sensitive, clairsentient, empath, what happened was when I was in the relationships, I gave so much of myself
Yeah.
just saving them. the detriment to my own self. And then they were fixed and healed, and I was on my knees broken. So you can see how it was just that awful spiral of fixing broken men. I've never been happier. I love being single.
So now when you look back and the book is out there, what is your intention? Well, I suppose it's yours and Mary Magdalene's, isn't it? How do you envisage women receiving it?
So I'll be completely honest, up until this point, I've not sold a lot of copies as yet. So it's quite a long way down that Amazon pile if you go searching for it, but you can go looking on my website and the link's there. What I tend to do is I buy the author's copies, and then when I feel called to share it with someone, they usually get a copy of it when they sign up to my programs. And it's a bit like a very comprehensive business card,
Yeah.
because what it does is it helps the woman who reads it to understand my background, and that I come from a place of non-judgmental, completely open and accepting, and bring your everything. Because without you being open and without you sharing what you need to share with me, I can't help you. So in a way, it's become a really useful tool when I'm working with my clients.
Well, it's funny. I was about to say, I think it's the kind of book that you would read when you're ready, when you get to a point
Yes.
and you're ready with it. You can imagine somebody like having a really rough time and searching, putting something in Google and it pops up and they find it that way because it's an incredible book. You've shared some really heartfelt stories in that. How do you feel about sharing those experiences? Because it does cover domestic violence. Was it something that you had to make peace with? Do you feel obviously to put it out there, you have to feel comfortable about that. Do you
Mm,
see it as having purpose, that story being out there?
I do, yeah. And another great question. When I think, again, going through those experiences, I heard somebody say a little while ago, I go to spiritualist church quite a lot. It's amazing. I get some beautiful messages I got one from my grandma last week, which was gorgeous. And to be a medium, which I'm not, but I do, so I guess I am. So I do channel messages from spirit
Yeah.
occasionally. And to be able to do that, to be a really good medium, you need to have had quite a challenging life, because what happens is that you will understand those, because the way that spirit communicates with you is very unusual in that it might be through symbology or it might be through a physical body sensation, as it is with me. And to have had that diverse life of experiences, you need to be able to interpret those messages in the right way. I learned something else really interesting a couple of weeks ago as well.
Yeah.
So, if you're a healer, you will have double M on the palms of your hands. Mary Magdalene. Isn't that interesting? Have you got double M on your palms?
No, but I've just got one.
Oh, so maybe the extra M is being developed.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I mean,
maybe.
mine are like furrows in my palms. I was down at Arthur Findlay College down in Stansted a couple of weeks ago, and it was a healing week, and we had an amazing week of fantastic conversations, you can imagine.
So what are you working on at the moment? What things have you got out there at the moment?
It's never ending, is it? That song in my head's a never ending story. So, something interesting, again, very aligned with Mary Magdalene energy, listening to the messages that she's sending me and taking action on those, because when you take action, then they know that you're listening and they will give you more. And that's how the muscle strengthens. So we were coming back from Arthur Findlay College 2, 3 weeks ago, and a beautiful friend was driving, and there was another lady in the car with me and her who I'd never met before. And she told me about some funding that she'd been allocated to divvy up in a particular area. And I said, so I've been planning this 12-week course for teenage girls, and it's been sitting on my desk for a year, and I've not done anything with it. And it's called Life by Design, Not by Default. Because I thought, if I take what I do for business women and adapt it for girls who are just at the beginning of their journey, their lives will be completely transformed. And she went, oh, that's interesting. She said, let me introduce you to my friend who's a community centre manager. So I had that meeting this week. And as I walked through the door, I felt like I'd been plugged into the electric socket. My body was going, zzz. So watch this space, because I think that is going to be very interesting.
Do you think you'll write any more books?
I've written another book.
Oh, have you?
Yes, I actually wrote it in the airport on the way back from India. And it's called 40 Days and 40 Nights. But I'm not going to publish it because it's too personal.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even know why I told you that. But yeah, there is another one on its way,
Yeah.
be in public domain. And I think it's probably going to be about the way that my body is changing and the experiences that have happened, some more autobiography, but things that have happened since the last book. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Lovely. And one final question. It's something I like to do because I attach it to the Instagram post, but do you have a favourite song?
Oh,
And why?
I have lots of favourite songs. Music is very prolific in our family.
Mm.
So I think it's got to be Raw by Katy Perry because of the feminine raw thing. I use it as like a signature thing when we're coming into rooms and meeting each other face to face.
Love that. Frances, thank you so much for your time and energy today. It's been wonderful to speak to you. Thank you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Connection Compass. If you think this episode will help somebody else, please leave a review. For more information about Frances' work, please check the show notes. And finally, remember to keep talking, keep connecting for a more interconnected world.